Today, I'm very fortunate to have Silvio Kutić, the CEO and founder for Infobip.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation.
Welcome.
So let's kind of start off at the very beginning of your journey. Let's talk a little bit about Infobip itself and how it all started.
So we started Infobip as the company 20 years ago. The date of foundation was in 2006. And we've been always focused on building the future with innovation of digital interaction between businesses and people and their end users. And let's say in this vast space of communication, we've been always focused just on this one thing. And even the company started in 2006. Prior to that, 5 years, we started different projects, always in communication space, and everything failed in these different communication projects. But we learned, we pivoted, and then we found a model where we became an SMS API platform, because at that time it was very difficult to send a simple message because of the fragmentation, different mobile operators, different protocols, etc. So that was the first problem we started to solve. And on top of that, technology was evolving, and we evolved our technological stack here, our organizational design in the company, and we've been always very, very focused on innovating in the space.
Wow. So this is, of course, the 20th year, and congratulations on that. Not many companies actually survive that way. So let's talk a little bit about the journey itself. You kind of started in a small town, and probably you had many challenges to start itself, and then growing to now $2+ billion company, one of the market leader in the space you're in. So how did that happen? Where did you get that inspiration?
I really wanted to build something on my own, from when I was a small kid, a software company. And second, I really liked what I was starting. Even what I mentioned, I was failing for the first 5 years. Everything what I did failed. That was a little bit frustrating, but even with that, I was very happy that I'm doing something that I really love. And I just started going and continued, to move, through these failures, but also through the successes later. So and it's very difficult to start a company from, we are here in a 3,000 inhabitants small town.
Yeah.
Very close to the sea. It's like tourism, everybody's working in tourism here in agriculture. But I was always focused on technology, engineering. My father is an engineer, and my mother is for example, worked for a school. So that's what I implemented, also in the company. Engineering mindset, and this we are starting from this very, very small town, So we created an educational company where we onboard people with the right attitude and building skills together, so collaborating together, sharing knowledge together, learning every day something new. So we created and this I think is the most valuable part of the company, is the ability to innovate, the ability to learn, and the ability to adapt to new technologies and new knowledge.
And interesting that you kind of admit how in the beginning you kind of failed, and you said you failed for 5 years, but you still continue to be on something, and then you're figuring out hey, what is finding out what that pivot is. So how did that pivot come about? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that could be a great learning from a lot of our leaders today who are probably listening, and then they're trying to figure out, because now today everything is changing so quickly, so fast.
Yes, and especially here in Europe, people are very risk
averse.
And failure is not it's more and more becoming that people are embracing failure as learning curve. And if you think from 2002 to 2006, what I was failing, still people didn't understand that as pivot. This thing with pivot was first coined by Eric Rice, if you know, the Lean Startup.
Lean Startup,
and that was in 2011. When I read the book, I understand, yes, I was pivoting all these failures, And it was really interesting because I started building the virtual community here for this small town, which was a kind of social network for communicating with followers through the web interface, email, SMS. This project failed, and I was like running a subset of this one. And this project failed, and then I started Infobip version 1 in 2003, which was like, again, a subset. I was like simplifying something and trying to find, this like product market fit and the solution for scalability. And but in every of this iteration, I also lost the team. I had to create a new team, so it was like difficult. But again, like I was like enjoying it, like I'm enjoying it today.
Interesting. So seems like the key is enjoy the process and just keep building.
100%. Yes. It's like also what I mentioned sometimes on our like town halls. It's like really okay. We try to like imagine what is our vision, what is the direction of like where all these technological movements can converge, and how this can be used like in customer experience, customer communication, for the space in which we are in. But it's like very, very important, like the journey, to enjoy the journey and to be focused on day by day, like, and to really like work with people that you enjoy with, and that they all create like a good, like working team spirit. I think this is the most important. And then, things are changing, things are moving, especially with AI today, everything is much quicker and changes, like it's much more dynamic, I would say, today.
So let's talk a little bit about, I know if you just look at the numbers itself, it's sheer, I mean, it's extremely impressive just looking at the number and probably, how you started off and how the kind of scale you have. But then at the same time, probably it's not much talked about is how you're building the community, how you're kind of helping the root where you actually started everything. Can you talk a little bit about those initiatives, the kind of impact you have on a broader community? And then again, the talent, how you're kind of getting locals to work with you, and everywhere there's like kind of building that community. Can you talk a little bit about that impact you're making?
Yes. So when we started the company, so, like every company is starting because of the why for the company. And I would say first, like we really wanted to be focused on building the future of digital interactions between businesses and users with breakthrough innovation. So innovation is very important, And second, very important, and what is connected with like education, sharing knowledge. So we want to, through knowledge, through enabling people with knowledge who are joining Infobip and who is collaborating with Infobip, but especially who is joining Infobip, through knowledge to open and like to create like new life possibilities for them. And third one, our positive impact on the community around us. So that from the beginning has been the three why we have even started the business. So it's like very important for us also, okay, what is our impact on the people's lives around us, And from day one, so we've been always working and donating to, let's say, hospitals, people in need, etc., but also very focused on STEM programs, robotics, education of some groups, like working with universities and promoting and collaborating with young talents. And third one, so we have created also our Infobip Foundation, maybe 10 years ago. And through this foundation also we are trying to help people, but also to promote young people to become, to change, like their life trajectory through knowledge. And somehow we're trying to help them into that.
No, I'm sure like when someone looks at you, young someone looks at you and there's so much inspiration, and then probably they're looking into like, hey, I can be one like him. And that itself, and I see like how you are trying to build people, get ready in that kind of path. Hey, coming to the starting line of this is great, whether it's from the kind of smaller opportunities, smaller skill development, or working with the university and everything. Now let's talk a little bit about the industry itself. Before I talk about the industry trends and all those things, as that's like part of my job, but I would like to hear from you, like introduce Infobip to some of our listeners who doesn't know much about communications, because they're probably not from the ICT industry. Because our readers, our listeners, they're from many different kind of sectors. So let's talk about what Infobip is.
Infobip is a global communication platform. So if you need to engage with your users on whichever channel, WhatsApp, email, SMS, RCS, you can use Infobip. And not just for that, you can use Infobip technology to have like hyper-personalized types of communication, which are highly relevant for you, let's say, that could profile yourself, that can profile like somebody else, like, and having like this conversation in real time. And today, of course, this is all powered by AI. So like businesses, our customers are using Infobip in different ways because like we own the whole full stack of the technology. So we really control the technology. You can use the whole stack, or you can use just part of this technology and like integrate into your other systems, platforms. So it's like this modularity and flexibility also very important.
So it would be right to say, for people who are not familiar with Infobip, is like you are enabling organizations to bring their communications to their customers, their channels, everyone, and probably the way their customers like to have communicated, right? And then again, it's like probably, correct me if I'm wrong, that they may not necessarily know Infobip, but end customers may have already been touched by Infobip's messaging delivery or any of that, right?
This is like, I would say, correct, yes. So probably they have used Infobip services through some of their like bank or whatever, like some of our customers. Just if you think like just in last 12 months, about 75% of the global population have interacted with some services through Infobip platform on behalf of our customers. So like probably in this 75%, you interacted also with one or more services through Infobip.
And that's when I saw the numbers. It was like, what was it, 70 billion or 700 billion interactions?
Yeah, almost 700 billion, but about 75% of like unique users globally in 1 year interacting through our platform.
That's a massive number. And that's, again, probably, there's a huge change from where you actually had started. And then back then, probably the communications used to be very much of a text, and text meaning probably SMS.
Right, yeah.
But now we are talking about omnichannel, and then there's a whole lot of orchestration. Everything is coming in and around that. And now beyond that, we are talking about AI empowered. And can you talk a little bit about that journey from the industry point of view, as well as how Infobip is actually gearing to that and actually helping organizations to navigate this complex transition?
I mean, what you mentioned, so like let's say our industry, the CPaaS, communication platform as a service, have underwent, I would say, 3 major phases of growth. What we call the CPaaS 1 are the telco services, SMS and voice also. And CPaaS 2 then became available, the omnichannel, so the different over the top, I would say. Today, WhatsApp is very, very like largely present globally, but you have Viber, Zalo, Kakao, Line, especially there in Asia, RCS from Google, email communication, CPaaS2, and video communication in any of the means, like through the OTT or through other types of technologies. And today is like the CPaaS 3, where you group all of these channels together and then you communicate like wherever is the consumer preference, send time optimization, sentiment analysis. So like AI for hyper-personalization and orchestration of all of these different channels, and content orchestration through content generation through AI. So to make like every single touch, every single communication very, very hyper, I would say, personalized, highly relevant. So like we are moving from, let's say we started like with a simple channel to omni-channel, and now we're moving to this intelligent, orchestrated, like types of communication.
So you are really taking a lot of headache away from a lot of organizations who otherwise would have to figure out like, hey, what is the best way to communicate? When is the best time to communicate? Is the messaging correct, not correct? So, and that also sounds like you are probably earlier used to work with a particular type of set of people in organizations. Are you seeing that now that is kind of broadens up, and then now you are doing a lot of work with even from the marketing, maybe sales, maybe so different parts of organizations? And how does that changes in terms of the way you speak to organizations?
Yeah, so with the time, we've been working, let's say, this changed from just purely IT tech part of the organization. A lot like was one-time pins, 2FA, so like security, anti-fraud departments in the organizations. And now it's more changing. But what is changing, because especially lately with AI, with enabling natural conversations through the technology. So now we speak with maybe chief digital officer, higher level, that is like overseeing the complete, let's say, customer journey in our customers' organization. So because with this technology, different other, I would say, adjacent, spaces are converging into one space. What that exactly means is like before you needed like maybe one tool for customer support, another tool for marketing, the third tool for customer success or for sales, the fourth tool for like human-to-human conversations, or like a contact center. Now everything is merging together, and you have like AI-enabled communication. And this AI-enabled communication is everything is one tool, one analytics, one customer view. So I'm starting a conversation with you, then I'm like through some signals, and then AI decides, like when to reach out to you to maybe try to offer you something, because now is the right moment for you. And then you have like escalation to humans, human in the loop, and human to human. But let's say through one, interface, through one proposition, you're covering the whole customer journey, and everything is becoming more natural, personalized. So like instead of talking like with different departments, you elevate the discussion to talk about the full customer journey. So the customer, not just small parts that are not talking together, these software parts, that are like fragmented.
Yeah.
And you don't have like all these handovers between that. So this interconnectivity is like, for AI, data is changing everything. And if you have like data, like one data lake, one CDP in the CDP, you can do much more things, than this like discontinued, fragmented, like disjointed, points in time that you communicate with the end user.
So in that context, you're kind of helping navigate and communicate when the customers is moving through their customer lifecycle journey, what you call, and you are able to kind of orchestrate wherever there's a requirement of communication. You're also kind of ensuring that communication fits at the right messaging and all of that. In this context, also what comes to me is very important that these days, every now and then, I get triggered with the number of messages keep coming, and vast majority of those messages comes across to me and feels like spam. So again, there's intentional spam, and like probably organizations trying to reach me and then trying to offer me something. That may be one side, but the other side, which is really scary for me, is when there's company pretend to be a company and then scamming, right? And everyone is getting scared of scam. So I believe you guys are doing something how to prevent that.
Maybe one interesting point here, some organizations, large organizations, because of the technology stack of what was before, and many of them are like still using this type of technological stack, maybe you have a problem with customer service, something is not working with you, but the other department is trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
So this can also happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Very frustrating.
Yeah. But it's just the technology, and they don't have like a one customer unified view, like that's what we're trying to change, and that's where the industry is, moving in that direction. But so there are like a lot of like scam, phishing, they try to do account takeover and things like that, So we work first, so more and more of these channels, you have registration, compliance, provisioning of WhatsApp, a business sender, so you have like or RCS agent, so you have like the verified sender reaching out to you, so you see like really who is trying to get in touch with you, not like a random number, but this like alphanumerical written the name of the brand. And second, we are also working with the carriers to prevent block and these types of misuse that can happen in the telecom network. So this is like on SMS messaging level. And there, like, we try to block and we try to analyze, the different types of attacks. So we protect end users. So it's like on, let's say, 2 levels, on operator, the carrier level, and on channel level with the different providers like Meta, Google, Viber, etc.
And other thing which comes across to my mind then is like AI, and you kind of couple of times you mentioned about AI and the impact. So let's talk about that itself. Now, how is that changing the whole dynamics of the landscape itself, the competitive landscape? Because at one point in time, you also kind of mentioned that, look, everyone is trying to converge in one point. It's not even one quadrant. Everyone is coming from different directions, but everyone's intent is pretty much the same. And when everyone is trying to come to that point, there's so many different types of players we are talking about now. That's one. But even before going there, I want to understand how you're looking into AI, then how you're also kind of taking an approach of AI first. And what does that mean for Infobip? And how you are actually helping to build things for your customers so that they can help their customers well.
Yeah, so we can look this at how AI is changing product capabilities. And the second one is like also, if we want to move quickly there and execute our strategy, we need to transform our organization. And, like companies are transforming the organizations continuously. AI is accelerating, changing totally the whole, I would say, view on that. And so we have implemented this, how we call it, AI first. So we want to move from, let's call it, a legacy type of company.
Sure.
On the other side, you have like the AI natives, which are designed with AI workflows in mind. They're very, very quick. It's like, I think, more and more difficult for like legacy companies to compete with the AI natives, because like with maybe one person, they can do 10 times more than the legacy company built on legacy frameworks and built on standard software. So we want to move from this legacy to AI first, and to do that, so we have underwent, like enablement of the organizations, different hackathons. So like more than 90% of the people in the whole organization of Infobip, not just in engineering, are using on a weekly basis some AI tools, mainly Anthropic at the moment, but we are like very agnostic. So we use like different models for different things. And with that, like we are looking how to redesign, how to redesign our operating model, go-to-market model strategy. And through this, like, so we are looking, instead of people being tied to software, the workflows that the agents can address, it's not tied to software, but can like move through different organizational units. So like the workflow is the thing, and that's what is speeding up the things, like, because you don't need software designed for you, like software designed for like department, like the workflows is designed to do the work. So like the orchestration of all of that is changing dramatically, I would say. And so like, and then if we want to move in some direction, change the strategy, or the strategy is like, let's say, defined that everybody's moving to this point of full, like to handle the full customer life cycle, for the customer engagement, etc. I think that we need to be quick in how are we moving there, and this becoming for everybody to become an AI first company, wherever makes sense. It's like the way to go, because like if you can speed up one part of the organization on 5x, 10x, the other part for 5x, 10x is the way to move, because like you have other competing companies moving at 10x or even more today.
So then if I'm a customer, what should I remember that, look, you being AI first, what does it mean to me?
If you are a customer, so like what that means to you, really, what means is like, speed, agility from our side, innovation. We tackle problems and find solutions very, very quick for you. If you think about this AI, omnichannel, about all these things that are changing in every of these like different, like OTTs, like we tackle this very, very quickly. we work together with customers in this like model of the forward deployed engineers and build together, co-create solutions with them. So like very flexible, outcome-based type of organization and outcome-based of collaboration.
Yeah. So actually, you have the opportunity to now focus on what you are trying to, what the customer is trying to achieve, and then work all the resources in and around that, and just focus and build that together. And then again, probably other thing which comes to my mind is like how much of those workflow you can start automate as well. That becomes quite a key focus.
Workflows for the customers.
Yeah.
It's more or less everything automated through AI already. One good example, for example, let's say just a few months ago, you had to spend maybe few days to design complex workflows of communication. For example, this communication that will go, in WhatsApp or type of communication, in the whole customer like journey in RCS or in email, And now this is generated everything through AI, the full workflows, and then we calculate for your profile of personality, what you like, in which stage of the journey you are with us, We are on the flow personalizing through AI, so you don't need to lose more than 5 minutes. We are like personalizing the full flows, what the best you will like, what the best will convert for you. Maybe you like to be more to the point, others like to read more and to be more engaged with the brand. But it's like, this is the hyper personalization, automation at scale that AI is bringing. And especially with this data that we analyze, tens and tens of thousands of different campaigns, different journeys, flows.
Yeah.
So we can combine this all data, and create like the perfect campaign for our customers and for their end users.
And I keep hearing that now everyone can build, right? And AI brings that ability so that everyone can try out things and then probably, proof of concept from there to build on scale. That's like become so much shorter and easier. And I can try out a concept. So can you talk a little bit about what are you doing to enable that for your customers? And of course, you may also want to touch upon a little bit for everyone to understand what Agent OS, because I heard about that and then that's very impressive how it's kind of helping everyone to build new and then creating the new possibilities.
Yeah, now with AI, everybody is a builder, that's right. So like the technology, the knowledge is available for everybody. And so I think, we are entering this era of personalized software. So we are also looking how to make any parts of our platform available through MCPs for AI, so they can personalize this type of software for their own needs. So this is I think where the industry will be moving. Before it was more embeddable UI. Now it's fully personalization of any of the workflows, any of parts of the technological stack. So you can, let's say, Agent OS. This is our agentic platform in this omnichannel world, that is actionable and really doing some actions agentic on the back end. But let's say why you did, for example, you would like to build your own Agent OS that is best suiting, let's say, your design, your workflows, your different roles in the organization, which is maybe different. So you want to personalize the software. So that's where it's moving, personalization, AI, builders, So that's where we are moving to with our customers. And Agent OS, we call it OS because you can really execute, through any of these omni-channel personalized types of communication. You can execute in this agentic. For example, you want to rebook a ticket or do something with buy a ticket or whatever, you can do this automated, and then the agentic flow, it's connected with systems. It needs to connect, can buy a ticket, can reschedule a ticket, can do whatever, can do actions. So these actions, it will continue to grow the possibility of that. So you can think about this type of communication, of conversation to be an operating system. That's why we call it also Agent OS.
And when we are talking about moving from agent to agentic, And an important aspect there is trust and governance, right? And not often we hear a lot of people talk a little bit about that, and everyone, we just get so excited about what it can do. But what are the things we really need to look into? Can you talk a little bit about how those conversations with your customers? How do you make? There's a big hype, but from that hype, when you want to create something real, without losing, or rather, what happens if it just goes loose and create havoc, right? How do you kind of advising or working together with customers to make sure that something is done, but it's done right? And what would those steps be? Like, how would you advise them?
So, like the industry have been moving, I would say 3 steps here, just to dissect that part. First was these bots. And bots were like just FAQ, answering something, Then you had like agents, and agents have been, with RAG knowledge grounded on exactly, let's say, the company's data, etc., etc. So with guardrails that they are not hallucinating and being like just in this subject that you need them to be with the guardrails, And that moved in the 3rd phase to agentic, And agentic means through this, like intent analysis, some actions can be done on that way, on the other way. So like, I think this is working very automated, human in the loop. So like that you can control, log, and have like the control of what's happening, and guardrails for security and guardrails for grounding, reinforcement learning. Like all of these things are very, very important here, because you don't want, to create any damage, reputation, like problems for the brand.
Yeah.
So you need this, like, I think this is like number 1 capability of the platform today. So guardrails, reinforcement learning, RAG knowledge creation, RAG knowledge, like to be really like just grounded in the information, in the data that you need, and ability, to control this through the human and escalate to human wherever needed.
When you kind of started, we started talking communication between people to people, and then we kind of moved agent to people. Now we are really moving to agent, and we're talking to machine, and in that context, the communications is changing, and you also need to kind of ensure that, look, the agent is actually what that agent claims to be, one thing, and then the next other thing is that how those 2 agents are actually communicating, and then ensuring that the right outcome is given. And so can you talk a little bit about what kind of conversation is happening in and around that? And if you're telling your customers, how should they look into this, and what would be the best way to actually adopt something like this? I know it may be still in the little early stages, but I think it may be worthwhile.
Yes, so today, through Agent OS or similar types of solutions globally, businesses are, let's say, publishing their 1 or more communication agents. And through these communication agents, you can do some agentic workflow, so do some work on behalf of your customers. And there is a mean like of communication through, you can reach like your bank through WhatsApp, or through email, or through like a voice agent, etc. And I mean that this whole industry will be moving as probably OpenAI, Apple, Anthropic, etc. will enable you to have like your personal agent, and many other companies. And you will have your personal agent for travel, personal agent for financial services, personal agent for the e-government services, etc. And this agent will, through intents, communicate, negotiate, through different meanings, to different medium of communication with other agents. So you need to ensure also that both sides of this, like agent-to-agent communication, are trusted, compliant, that this person on the other side is really you, but you also need to be sure that the agent on the other side is really the agent of the company, your airline company, or your bank, or the government, because like you want to execute some very, very valuable transactions on the other side. So like there will be, I think, a need for probably registries here and registries, but also like to check, like because you have technology on both sides, to be always compliant, to be able to check, like logs, what happened, like etc. So like this trusted layer in between, it will also be needed, which is not available today. Everybody's launching its own agents. We are reaching to the agents directly. But so there are different also analysts saying there will be 20, 30, 40 billion agents in 2028. Maybe 10% of these agents or 5% will be communication enabled, but there will be lots and lots of agents. It's exponential, the curve of growth here. And with this exponentiality, like problems like cybersecurity, risks of identity theft or whatever, it's like growing tremendously. So like we're looking, okay, how to authenticate, how to identify, but I think that there will be the need for having like registries for government, for countries, or maybe for the BFSI, for the government, for the different types of services. But there is this new need that is like emerging here.
And does that also mean like you're really having to work with a lot more ecosystem players to just developing what those standards be? How should one look into that as well?
Right. Yeah.
I also want to touch one other thing. Like now, in this excitement, then what really excites you as a founder and also as an industry leader?
To be honest, like it's even if everything is changing now, everything is changing. It's not changing, this SaaS apocalypse and everything is changing during the night. Everything is accelerating. But, I really like to build things, like, and you have the ability to build much more things much quicker now, like what we talked like this with AI first or AI native type of companies. The speed of change, the speed of ability to execute is coming to 10x, 50x, maybe in some, parts, or even more, in some small parts of the organization. And with all these technologies, like everything is changing so quick, like that. I think, like before you're always a little scared, how this is impacting you. But when you embrace that and when you start, riding the wave, of these all changes, it's like very, very, very interesting and exciting. It's like we are restarting the company again now.
Wow, interesting. And then as it kind of enables you with power, and the famous quote says like, with power, it also comes the responsibility. So how are you thinking about that responsibility in terms of, again, I'm just thinking from the perspective of what keeps you awake, then look, these are things we need to ensure and some concern in that way.
I think, again, like the speed of change is like tremendously growing, but also the things are not changing during night. And so I'm sleeping well, so it's nothing is keeping me like awake during the night, but I know that this is just a phrase.
Yeah.
And like what we said, like for example, agent to agent, the communication will be through intent. So the whole CPaaS industry, our technology will be totally different. But again, like I'm seeing like this as a new, like much bigger opportunity for everybody here. And I would say, if we want to execute, if we go back to this AI first, so the operating model, go to market and becoming this AI first company, together with, okay, how AI is changing the whole like possibilities for the users, like building agents and agent to agent communication. It's like, we need to orchestrate and start to move as quickly as possible to implement things that are technologically available today. So it's like nothing that is like really, really worrying me. It's like I'm very, very excited, so we can move very quickly forward now. Yeah.
I love the positive attitude. Like everything is about, hey, solving something. And then you kind of feel like, hey, now I'm empowered to solve that much quickly so that I can address. I really appreciate you spending the time. But at the same time, I want you to just summarize, if people listening and if they didn't have the time to listen all this time what we've been talking about, and if they have to remember about Infobip, what should one remember? What is Infobip and what it stands for today and tomorrow?
I mean, communication, any mean, anywhere you integrate with Infobip, you can communicate in any personalized way with your end users. And we are looking always to be ahead, of the innovation curve. So whatever happens tomorrow, we will be already there.
And you are definitely helping your customers in that journey, whatever the possibilities comes, and you're exploring those possibilities and working much closely with customers and creating that possible.
Yeah, this is like, I think very well said. It's like, so we have this zero distance and we like to co-create with the customers to really understand, okay, what is the problem that you are trying to solve? What is your actual capabilities today, and how we can together enhance this and raise like for like the next level of communication with your teams.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate the time and very candid conversation about the journey, the organizations. It's always like past, present, and then of course the future seems to be very bright. And I wish you all the success, and we look forward to hearing great stuff coming from Infobip. That's it for today. Thank you.